late technical difficulties slash a baby who doesn't think nap times are really necessary. So there's that. I'm gonna be looking down some because I'm trying to figure out how to see my comments while I'm watching here. I've never done a live on my phone before. We always do them on my computer, so we're trying something new. Let's see. Okay, I think maybe it's working. Okay, so today we're going to talk about what we have been reading, both for me personally and also in my homeschool. This is not all that we have been reading. I used to do these monthly, and the past couple months I have been off of that with all of the baby and such. So I'm just going to give a brief rundown of some of the highlights that we've read over the past couple months and some stuff we're currently reading that we're liking, and talk about how we're liking it and go in a little more in depth with some of the stuff that I'm reading, because some of the stuff I'm reading is really, really good and is really teaching me some things. So first, I'm just going to go through what my 5th grader is reading. He is currently reading On the Far Side of the Mountain by Jean Craighead George. This is a sequel to, oh my gosh, what's that book called? My Side of the Mountain. And I hated that book. I know it's kind of a classic. My kids loved it. We listened to it on audio and I was bored to tears. So he wanted to read the sequel and he's really enjoying it. It's just the continuation of the story of the kid living in the woods. And I don't know why. I just hated that book, but he loves it. He's also just finished up. So a little bit of background on us. We have not always been in the church that we're in right now. Anyway, I'm not going to go into all that actually. But my husband had this set of Frank Peretti books. These are like the junior books. I don't know. The Cooper Kid, that's what it's called. The Cooper Kid Adventures. I've never read these, but these were my husband's when he was younger. And my son saw these on our shelf and he's like, I want to read one. I'm like, okay. Thinking he would pick up the first one, but the kid picks up the 6th one, starts the book at the 6th one. Like, my type A personality can't handle that. I don't know who does that. Anyway, this one was about kind of like a treasure hunt and someone in the group isn't honest and all of these things. He said it was a really good and fascinating adventure story. So he loved this. I don't know that I recommend them or don't recommend them. I don't know. I've never read them, but they kept his interest, and obviously they were clean by Frank Peretti, but I don't know like if there's any theological stuff that I might not agree with, because like I said, we're kind of a different theological standing than we were when my husband was reading these. So then for Sunlight, he is on the very last chapter finally of The Candy Makers. This is a Sunlight book and it is a fat one. This is why it is taking him so long. And it's all about this contest, a national like candy making competition type thing, and there's deceit and there's, you know, what is the right thing to do. There's a lot of moral dilemmas in this, and so he is enjoying this, but he is glad for it to be over just because it's been taking him a long time, so he'll feel very accomplished when he finishes this thing. Let's see, I think that is it for him. For my 3rd grader and my 5th grader, they are both, much to my chagrin, been loving Dogman. Thank you, Anna. Hey, Anna. Anna is commenting on my makeup. So they are loving Dogman. I don't know. It's a comic book. It's silly. It's whatever. But I let them get one every once in a while and they laugh and they reread it and reread it and reread it. So I don't know. But for his actual reading, he has just started in the I Survived series and he is loving those. He just read the first, not the first one, but his first one, which was the Joplin Tornado one. And he was all wrapped up in that. For Sunlight, he's been reading these little books and he doesn't like how short they are, but it's good content. The Long Way Westward, Prairie School, about a boy who didn't want to learn to read, but his aunt teaches him and he finds out that it's actually very valuable to know how to read. Keep the Lights Burning, Abby. And he's currently reading Riding the Pony Express, which this one is a little bit more of an actual chapter book. And he is really liking this one. And he said it's very interesting, especially because it's, you know, based in truth. So it's kind of historical. For my 3-year-old, he will be 4 next week. He's actually gone right now with his grandma for a birthday lunch. I can't believe he's gonna be 4. Why does 4 feel like so much different than 3? I don't know. For me, that's kind of like a, I don't know, not really a milestone birthday. It just feels different. It feels different. His favorite book right now is If I Built a Car by Chris Van Dusen. And this is a really sweet book. It's just a kid and his imagination on how he would make a car look and what all features it would have if he got to build it. And so there's like lots of crazy stuff. But it has like a good rhyming scheme, and so it's really fun to read. And then if you have a boy or a girl who just thinks potty humor is hilarious, Don't Feed the Coos is another one of his favorites right now. Again, I'm not thrilled with this book, but it gets a giggle out of him every time. So it's warning you not to feed the pigeons. They call them the coos because they follow you around and something happens that rhymes with coo. Okay, potty humor, but he's liking it. And then we recently read Silly Sally by Audrey Wood, and it's a cute story too. So again, just more of like a little poem and rhyming scheme and all that stuff. So yes, Anna, not thrilled in the least, but they're reading, right? And then he's also, for his Sunlight, we've been going through What Do People Do All Day by Richard Scarry. And this is just kind of nostalgic for me. My sister, who is now 27, I think she is. No, I think she's 28. I don't know, but she might be 28 now. But she loved Richard Scarry growing up, and we watched the show all the time because of her. But this just goes through the different things that happen in a day. So there's firemen, and you learn all about how they put out a fire. There's mailmen, there's a trip to the hospital. And of course, some of it's like kind of dated because it's older, but just talking about how things work and sewer systems and electricity and just all this stuff that you don't really always think to talk to your preschooler about. And he's really enjoying that. So for our read alouds, for just our regular fun read alouds, we did finish up the Wild Robot series. Finally, it took us forever and it shouldn't have, but we read the first one really fast, and then we took a break from reading aloud basically just because our life kind of got real crazy for a bit. But we finally finished up the second Wild Robot book. It was so sweet. It made me tear up a time or two, and my boys really, really liked it. Then we started this over Christmas break and didn't finish it, so it's still a Christmas book, but we're reading it now going into February. But this is J.K. Rowling's The Christmas Pig. Again, it's a sweet story so far. I don't know, we're not super far into it, so I don't know much about it, but an easy read, and everyone is enjoying it. So for Sunlight, we started with Red Sails to Capri, and this was a really fun read aloud. There's a lot of like vibrant characters in it, so we got really into the voices and all of that. And it says, the minute he saw the boat with the red sails moving into the harbor, Michelle knew something exciting was going to happen. And so they have to, they explore the sea cave and all of this different stuff. So it's kind of an action-packed, but again, a lot of moral dilemma type stuff going on there. My boys really like that. And we are finishing up currently Sticks Across the Chimney by Nora Berglin. I love this book, and I still can't figure out like where it's going, how it's all going to wrap up at the end. But it's just a story of 2 kids in Denmark who live with their mother, who aren't really liked by the townspeople. And there's a lot of just like good teachable moments in this book, but they happen very naturally in the course of just their everyday life. Which I love because it's not a like preachy, or it's not, okay, here's a story, here's a story. It's just their story, but there's a lot of just good teachable moments in it. Okay, so that is all for the kids for now. As far as me, I will start with just my fiction books. I'm just going to go through a few of them real quick because they're not really important. They're just kind of things that when I just need to relax and unwind, showing my age there. Please be kind, please rewind. Is that what it used to say? But mysteries are just kind of what I do to just kind of like take a breather. And so I am in the middle of A Stranger in the House by Shari Lapina. It's a good mystery. I listened to, let's see, One by One by Ruth Ware, and that's kind of like an Agatha Christie feel. And so it was pretty good. It wasn't my favorite Ruth Ware book, but it was pretty good. I also listened to The Dutch House by Anne, I forget her last name, Patchett. And this was actually narrated by Tom Hanks. And so if you're a Tom Hanks fan like I am, it was actually really nice to listen to. But it's just kind of a story of two siblings and the house they grew up in and just what happens in their lives. There's nothing like earth-shattering about it. It's just a nice, easy read. And I enjoyed it. I also listened to Hidden Valley Road by Robert Culker. And this was not a fiction book, but actually the story of a mid-century family whose 6 of the 12 of them had schizophrenia. And so this is when schizophrenia was kind of a new diagnosis, and just the journey of them getting diagnosed and how schizophrenia affected their lives and what kind of came about because of their family, because they were studied a lot. That was super interesting. And then I also listened to Hillbilly Elegy, which was kind of a memoir about just kind of like the lower class American culture, and just, you know, how where you grow up affects things, how that affects things. It doesn't have to be your story, but how it can definitely change things for you. And so it is, there are some like vulgar things, but it's a very real and honest book. It's not vulgar just for the sake of being vulgar, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't know if I'd recommend it. I would have to know you personally to know if I should recommend that book to you or not. But I really enjoyed it. So then as far as nonfiction, what am I currently reading? I am currently reading Eve in Exile. This book has been all the rage lately. Oh my gosh, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there's like a bottle ring on there for my baby's bottle. Whoops. But this is all about feminism and why it is garbage, basically. I mean, not really, but kind of how we need to think of femininity in a biblical perspective. And that's kind of been the journey that I've been on for the last several years. And so this is just super good. It's by Becca Merkle, and she is amazing. I love her and her sister, which, speaking of her sister, Rachel Jankovic, I also read, I thought I had it here. Oh, here it is. Loving the Little Years. And this book is not new. It's been around for about 12-ish years. And it was recommended to me a long time ago, back when my older kids were younger, but I just never got around to reading it. And now I'm kind of back in the little stage. I have an almost 4-year-old and a newborn. And so this was very refreshing to read through and just kind of remind myself, like, being in the trenches doesn't just mean survival mode. It also doesn't mean perfection, because I mean, look at this picture. That's what toddlers are like. There's no such thing as perfection. But just not getting that survival mode, but not striving for something that's impossible. Yes, Anna said this makes a huge impact on her life. And yes, it is super, super good. It is a good refresher for me, because I just feel like now I'm back in the trenches. I was kind of out for a little bit. I took a break between my kids, and now I'm back in them. And so just the mission of motherhood, and, you know, how to make that work in the chaos that is motherhood. And let's see what else. I am also going through this book called Growing Together by Melissa B. Kruger. Again, I'm pretty sure it has a mark on it for my baby's bottle. Great. Taking mentoring beyond small talk and prayer requests. So I am leading a mentorship group through my church, and this is just kind of a guide on how to lead discussions. This isn't necessarily like a study in and of itself. It's more of a, here are the things we need to talk about, and here are the things that we need to think about in a biblical perspective, which unfortunately a lot of Christians don't do. Like, we go to church and we do the thing, but then when it comes to just the daily in and outs of life, sometimes we just forget that, wait, the gospel applies here too. The gospel applies in my motherhood. It applies in my relationships with my spouse, with my friends, with my parents, you know, as an adult. How do we navigate that? how do we navigate prayer and all these different things, all these different aspects of the Christian life. How do we look at that through the lens of scripture, and how do we lead discussions in that way? So this has been a helpful tool for me. And also something, just kind of a side note that I'm going through with my church right now is 1st and 2nd Peter. So this is a study by Lydia Brownback, and it's a living hope in a hard world, which is kind of what 1st and 2nd Peter is all about. This is a little bit different style of study than I've done in the past, but I am really, really enjoying it. So if you're looking for a good Bible study, she has a few others, but this one is 1st and 2nd Peter. And so then a couple books that I've been listening to that are nonfiction. I listened to Risen Motherhood recently by Emily Jensen and Laura Whiffler. And I actually used to follow their podcast like adamantly. Like as soon as the one released, I would drop what I was doing and listen to the podcast. I loved it. Because again, kind of like Loving the Little Years, it's very much like, how do we take motherhood and not just survive, but thrive in it? Thrive in the mess. And they have kids with disabilities. They have, kids who have lots of hospital visits and stuff. And so they know what it's like to be in the trenches, but they know that this is a mission field. And so they just go about, what that looks like and why we have to live as though this is our mission field. I also read Broken Bread by Tilly Dillahay, and this was amazing. Guys, I highly recommend this book. It talks about food and how we look at that biblically. Again, you'll see a theme here. But if you're like me and have either struggled with weight gain or have struggled with eating disorders in the past or whatever it may be, this book is for you. And it's for you if you eat. So it's for everybody because it talks about, people have preferences, then people have allergies, and people have all these different like views on food. And some of them are, that's fine. You're allergic to something, obviously don't eat it. But some of them, people hold to these strict dietary restrictions almost like it's just fun. It's the cool new thing to do, and then some people, it's just, hey, I feel better when I eat this way, and that's totally fine. But talking about putting relationship before our food, before our diet choices, and about the power of sharing meals together and using food, yes, for fuel, but also using food for a delight. And so, no, we don't just go gorge all the time on whatever we want, but we can savor food. We can enjoy food because God gave it to us as an enjoyment. There's reasons why he refers to things like honey in the Bible a lot. He refers to fruits a lot and figs and all these different things because it's a good gift that he gave us. And so this book goes through how to enjoy it and not abuse it, and how to deal with relationships when it comes to food. Because food is a central part of our lives, whether we like it or not. If you eat, you have to eat, right? And so it's just a really, really good book, and I highly recommend it. And let's see. So one thing I wanted to recommend to you is because I started reading Loving the Little Years, and then I got distracted and ended up listening to the rest of it, finishing out an audiobook with the Canon Press app. I am not supported by them or anything, but it is a game changer. So there are tons and tons of audiobooks. If you sign up for them, all of their audiobooks, you get access to then a lot of their teachings, a lot of their podcasts. So this is Rachel Jankovic and Becca Merkel and their parents, Douglas Wilson, Nancy Wilson. So many really good books and resources. I listened to a talk from Vodi Bakum on there the other day. That was so, so good. And so I highly recommend that. There is a free trial. If you look them up, you can find the free trial and see if it's something you want to pay for. My free trial is almost up, and I am definitely going to be paying for it because it is a great resource for all things biblical living. They have a motherhood section. They have, actually, there's just a women's section. They have a family section. They have an education section. They have a men's section. They have a Christian living section. They have debates on there you can listen to. So, so good. So I highly recommend that. What have you guys been reading? Anyone reading anything interesting? I am always on the lookout for a new book, which my husband would be like, why? Although lately he has been the one that has been ordering books like crazy, but thing that's different is he doesn't read them right away. And so he just like has this stack that's like growing and growing and growing. And I'm like, quit ordering books and read the ones you have, which I'm kind of guilty about that, but I'm at least slowly working through my stack. So let me know down below what you have been reading. I will, I can't remember exactly what my next video is on, but I know I have a day in the life coming up. I know I'm going to be talking about some of the curriculum that I tried out this year. Remember, I tried out Good and the Beautiful for the first time this year with my third grader. So I have a review on that coming up. And then we will be hitting hard homeschool curriculum again. Like it's the end of the year. People are thinking about next year. So we will be hitting that hard. So stick around, subscribe if you haven't, and if you're catching this on the replay, comment down below on what you've been reading, and if you have any recommendations for me, whether it be in the mystery genre or biographies. I love biographies, or obviously Christian living, anything biblical. I love that kind of stuff. So I thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Bye, guys.